Welcome to Behind the Screams, everybody. We're here with Adon Fanion. No, Adon Fanion from Ghost Ship Octavius previously, and now of the Ether. How are you doing, Adon?
Thank you, Garrick. I'm doing pretty good. You know, I'll take Fanion or Fanion any day because the thing, you know, if you were French, you'd say Fanion, and then the two rhyme. So let's just run with it, Adon Fanion.
Is that what it is? I've always wondered because I know there's been so much confusion about the pronunciation of your first name to start with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're kind of mismatched, but it's got a little rhyme to it. You know, you can just say Adon Fanion.
That's
you know,
true.
I've got it down, man, because it took me a really long time. You know, if you have an unusual name, I'm sure that you get this too, right? Like if you tell someone about your name, they're probably like Garrett, hey Garrett, how's it going? You know, or something like that, or like Gary. But
yeah, exactly.
But I finally got it down because I just tell people it's Adon, like a donut.
Oh, there we go. The secret.
And then they remember it. They never forget. Yeah.
I've gotten Garlic a couple times too, and as a result of that, people often will then start calling me Garlic. You know, because why not? But
Garlic.
Which incidentally, my name autocorrects to on certain word software. So
oh wow,
it's fun.
Thank you, Android.
Yeah,
that's funny.
So my name is
Yeah, but
Garlic.
eventually you get it down.
Send it to a job interview.
Okay, Garlic.
Yeah. Oh boy, here we go.
But yeah, no, it's I'm doing pretty good. I appreciate the interview. I really do.
Yeah, I'm glad this is a long time coming. Of course, anyone who's followed the channel knows I always thank you in the description for doing that amazing intro with the piercing scream, courtesy of Jens Viktorclay Johansson. But what software did you use for that? I don't think I've ever asked you. Like, how did you actually make that animation?
I think I'm pretty sure it was Toon Boom Studio. I used to use Toon Boom Studio a lot. And I actually studied animation in my last year of high school and did a lot of it, but I haven't done it in a long time. It was very fun. It was fun to it was fun to have an excuse to animate something. So I'm glad you're still able to use it. It's a pretty cool intro. Every time it comes on, it's got a charm about it. It's like, oh my God, here we go. Here's the scream.
I know, and I'm just sure so many people are startled by it too, which is amazing. You know, they're just like, oh, let's see what this interview is. Like, oh, what's this? You know, something called the
yeah.
It's just like
the initial shock factor.
Yeah, which is pretty fun. But yeah, I was able to grab it again just because obviously it'd been like 5 years since I'd used it, and then I was like, I'm just gonna do it the old-fashioned way and just crop the first 13 seconds of one of the other videos.
Yeah.
It's just pretty.
Well,
fun.
hey, it works. One of these days you'll have to renovate it. You'll have to do that scream.
That's true. I have to get my 6th octave going.
And then we'll make the mouse 3D.
Yeah. 3D interactive,
or live action. We'll just have somebody dress like a mouse.
Yeah, put them up against the green screen and just edit a bunch of effects on top of them.
But anyways,
yeah. All right, yeah. So for people who are probably tuning into this to hear about music and stuff, it seems like you've got a couple different things happening right now. I was just listening to your live tracks on your YouTube channel, and it's really good. Each song is so unique and different to the others. Are we going to be hearing more from that side of Adon Fanion's music, do you think?
Well, thank you. I think so. I think for a long time, actually, because now basically what I'm doing after leaving my last band, Ghost Ship, is writing whatever I want to write all the time. Just always writing whatever I want to write. And usually it's completely different because I generally don't want to do the same thing over and over again. It's not stimulating for me. So that's probably partially why there's a lot of diversity in there too, and a lot of those songs I actually wrote on live stream. Well, a few of them I wrote on live stream, and so that's pretty fun too. I've been doing a lot of that. So as long as that keeps being fun, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, and I think Twitch is an exciting kind of avenue for new artists in general. It's nice to have that immediate interaction for once.
And yeah, it is pretty cool. Yeah, and it opens up like a dialogue,
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an exchange.
And you've been doing a couple, on and off for a handful of years now, and you were kind of ahead of the curve. It's like in 2014, 2015, when you first did it, it was like still a couple more years to go before suddenly Herman Lee and people like that would start doing it, and everything. And it's like,
Oh, do they do it too?
yeah,
Damn it, they copied me.
yeah, I know. And Devin
Let
and
it
people
go
like
on
that.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. When Devin did it, I'm like, here we go.
He saw a few
Now everyone's gonna
episodes.
do it.
Yeah, he saw a few episodes of the musical Ejaculatorum, and he's just like, "There we go."
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. But he did something way back. I remember Devin Townsend did a stream sort of songwriting thing way back, but it was for some company. I don't remember if it was a plug-in company
Oh,
or
that's
what
right.
it
Yeah,
was.
I think he did that song "Stars" there. I think I remember this. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
he
it
was
was.
fairly early on it too. Yeah, but
Yeah, it was a little bit awkward though. It was a little bit rigid, you know.
I think it's partly
And
because he
I'm
did it by himself. I don't think he had a lot of incoming like questions. He might have,
yeah,
but I seem to recall it was more of like solo endeavor. Whereas of course you would have guests and there'd be more of a dialogue going on.
yeah, yeah. I've got to say, so I mean, the thing about the stream right now for me, I don't feel like I'm doing it 100% right. I feel like it'd be really good with a dialogue. But just because of technological limitations, I haven't got it done yet. It's actually because of laziness, you know. I mean, we were talking about NDI and stuff like that beforehand, but I really just have to research it a little bit better because I reached some limitations with what I currently have installed as far as what I can do. And right now, I'm using two machines to stream. So I'm using one as a recording machine. I'm using one as a streaming machine. But I could probably just use one as a streaming machine if I had it set up properly. So, getting there, I'd like to make it better. The dialogue is a really cool thing because it keeps you engaged all the time. And I don't know how people feel about the stream right now because at least when I listen to it, it's either, me slowly recording a song, which to me is extremely boring, but that's, granted because I've already recorded it and I know exactly what to expect. But and then occasionally talking back and forth with the chat. So I'm just going to keep doing it. If people find it entertaining, then hopefully they do, and we can keep going with it. But if it needs to be revised and polished, and maybe I need to like let people call in, because that's one thing with the musical ejaculatorium. We had phases, and we had three people. So three people were keeping the dialogue going, while one person, usually myself, was recording, right?
Right.
And then we would even let people call in to give suggestions for the lyrics. And
Yeah.
that was so much fun because people would say the stupidest things
Yeah.
imaginable.
Well, some of those
Driving my
lyrics.
truck
Yeah.
around my barn. It's like the. Okay, next caller.
Yeah, next go. It did kind of simulate the classic radio, like satellite radio vibe, which is something that I feel like we don't get enough
Yeah,
of now. But it's hard
that's
to
true.
do, It's hard to get the audience built in enough to have enough people rotating through. But hey, if it ever comes back, I'd be excited to
Yeah,
partake.
that's true. Maybe it just needs a guest. Maybe I could pull you on there to guest.
Sure.
You know?
Or yeah, and I'd also be happy to do a prank call and leave, suggest some terrible lyrics or something. Keep the flow
Yeah,
happening.
that's absolutely fine. But yeah, to answer your initial question, I think I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep just creating whatever I want to create and put it together. I really wanted to tour on this, but it's okay. I guess this COVID thing buys me a little bit more time to figure everything out.
Got more songs when it comes back too.
Yeah, we did play an entire live set, and I think that's what you're referring to on YouTube. It's
Yeah.
the whole thing was filmed. We had the opportunity, even though there was shutdown. I got an offer to play at a film studio here called VX3, and we didn't have to pay anything for it. So I was, being a musician and being broke and having no money, um, you know, I was like, yes, free, yes. That's what musicians run off of in the United States.
Yeah, the free.
I'm just kidding. I'm
option.
not entirely broke, but I am a musician. We have to, we got to, keep that in mind here. So, when it comes between, like, usually, just consider if you're in a band, you're going to play something like that. You might have to pay in the neighborhood of like, $2,000 to hire a film studio. But of course, the way it always works is you hire somebody who's your friends, right? So, like, for instance, if you want to film a music video, it's probably better to hire some friends that that went to film school,
Right.
and then pay them personally as opposed to like paying a big production team. Usually that's for like corporate events and stuff. So we had the opportunity to work with a big production team, and these guys were awesome. Their name was VX3, but we only had a week to put the show together, or 10 days. And I didn't have a band yet. So when I say we, I mean me, myself, and I at this point. And then there were musicians I was talking to, musicians in the video. But nobody was counting on playing a gig, I mean, shutdown happened. So it's like, okay, we got 1 week. Here's the songs, I sent everybody the isolated tracks and showed everybody the parts and everything. We rehearsed and, luckily I had really good musicians around me to help put it together. And then once we recorded the whole thing, I've got all the video footage, I've got all the audio footage. I'm so grateful for it because that's just awesome, and then I've been spending hours and hours editing it and shamelessly overdubbing everything like the Kiss Live album.
I was wondering about that. It's like, is this a live vocal performance? I mean,
no, actually, all the vocals are live. All the vocals are live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't overdub any vocals, but the guitars. Yeah, well, thank you. The guitars are completely overdubbed. There is one piano note that I fixed and can't be wrong too, just because I don't know, I hit a wrong key or something, So to me, it's like, okay, I'm releasing this video. It's going to be well done. And I could try to leave it live. But I mean, here's the thing. Like the mic placement on the original one was really bad. So no matter what I do, the guitars are going to sound awful. And I just don't want to post something that sounds awful. So I just had to go back and redo the guitars.
Right.
Because like it's between here's something that sounds so bad, but it's live. But it's so bad you're not going to want to listen to it. So like, okay, here's something that's partially live, but I fixed all the stuff that sounded bad. So on one of the songs, all my guitar parts are fixed. I didn't fix any vocal parts, but I just had to. The mic placement was just it's not usable for me,
Or all
so
the
it's
other.
okay. I mean, I'm shameless. I mean, I'm going to post something that sounds good. I don't care if people are like, he's a fake.
Hey, I just think it's cool you're open about it too, because I don't have a problem with people correcting audio after the fact. I think you want to have a product that people are going to want to listen to. But if the band's going to be really open about it, I think that's just the way to go. I mean, why not make it sound like something you can listen to 30 years down the road instead of be like, yeah, that was definitely a product of the time where the mic placement wasn't quite right and all that kind of thing. What about the playing of the other guys in that
exactly.
scene?
That's all live.
Oh yeah,
the only thing I really fixed. Yeah, they did. The only thing I really overdubbed was my own guitar, but their guitars, I was able to make it work. And what I did was still the mic placement was really bad. So I took the tracks and I actually ran, even though they were through a microphone, I ran them through a cabinet simulator, a speaker simulator, like you would do for a direct guitar amp. And because the mic placement almost sounded like a direct guitar amp, it kind of works. So it fixes the sound, because it just runs it through that EQ curve and then spits it out sounding a little bit more lively. So that's pretty cool. And then the bass tone, I ran through Guitar Rig 5. I think it's direct. I think they gave me a direct, like a DI through the amp head. So it's running through a tube, but it's not running through the effects loop. And Jacob had all of these effects pedals that I can't capture, so I just ran it. I ran the DI through Guitar Rig, and I can kind of simulate some of that, like the chorus and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's all live, and then I took all the drums, I bust them to a compressor, slammed the compressor, and did like parallel compression just to kind of like bring that up and make it sound lively. So there's a lot to work with. It was just my mic. I mean, I don't know what I did. Maybe my cable got tied around it and pulled it into a weird place or something, but I would rather overdub it and say, look, everybody, I overdubbed this. You can choose to like it or not, or I can release something that sounds like garbage and let you judge it, if you want to, but who's going to want to listen to that,
Right. Yeah. But I really like the sound of all those songs, and I like that, like, Can't Go Wrong or Can't Be Wrong, I think is what it's called.
Oh, Can't Be Wrong.
Can't Be Wrong. That one was a real left turn to me because it's almost like a waltzy song in a way, it's almost like musical theater, the Adon way or something,
Yeah, well, thank you for that.
It's really cool.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. That one I actually wrote entirely on live stream.
Oh, nice. Damn, I should have been there.
And I think I posted that live stream. I think I posted the live stream on YouTube too. I mean, it's long. That's the thing. But it was fun. I did the whole thing on live stream and had a chord progression, had some lyrics, and some of it we just came up with.
Did you prepare any lyrics beforehand, or was it kind of figured out on the spot?
That one I don't remember, actually. I can't remember the order that one went in. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. Some of them I had before. The last song I did was called NPC, and that one I had the lyrics before. Oh wait, no, did I? The last one I definitely did was Martian Colony. Life on a Martian Colony. That's what I'm calling it. It's not completely done yet, but that one I started with the lyrics first, and pretty positive reception on that one first. I want to see if I can write a song or two, if they're really good, if I can write a really good song or two about colonizing Mars and then somehow get Elon Musk to retweet it,
Right.
like if it's worthy enough, you know what I mean?
Yeah, go for it, man.
It's my goal. It's my goal right now.
Elon, if you're listening, you know what to check out. Follow, stream, subscribe, But
Yeah. Tesla stock. Come on, here we go. No.
yeah. But I like the fact that there is so much difference in the style across the board from all these songs. At first, I liked the first few songs I was listening to. Spiritual Suicide, was that the title?
Oh yeah, spiritual
suicide.
Yes.
Okay, I got the list up. Yeah, that one I really liked because it had this almost classic rock kind of feel, but it didn't sound like a duplication of any classic rock band. But it's just really refreshing to hear new rock music that doesn't sound like it's trying to be the 70s too hard, or that it's just like modern radio rock kind of a sound. And so I'm kind of wondering what was the inspiration behind that song?
A new bass. I got a new bass, and I was playing that, and I'm like, yeah, coming up with a riff, and then just playing it and recording the riffs, and then that one kind of came out. I mean, there's different lyrical inspiration. The musical inspiration sometimes differs from the lyrical inspiration.
Right.
My like flow is all over the place. So that one I got a new bass guitar and I started putting down these riffs, and then as the song kind of developed, I kind of wrote it about just being idle and spiritual suicide is basically about like wasting your life and not trying to make it into something good. A lot of my songs are about conflicting spiritual views and like internal monologues and things that nobody really cares about. So
oh, and I get it. Yeah.
It's like, because one of them, the last one, NPC, is about not being in control of your actions, just being in a reactionary state. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's always a question of like, whether or not we're in a reactionary state. Certain things put us into a reactionary state and we're just reacting all the time. You know what I mean? But we feel like we have this autonomy over ourselves. So we feel like we have this autonomy, then, philosophically speaking, according to, all the religions and stuff that people subscribe to, we should be constantly striving to make the world a better place. And we should be constantly trying to make ourselves better people. We should be constantly trying to go to heaven or whatever it is you believe, and then still bad things happen, and still we make bad decisions, and still mistakes are made along the way. So then that's when things get complicated, because you try to reconcile this ideal of how life should be and how the world should be and how we should be with reality, which is not what we want it to be. It's not the thing we made in our mind.
Right.
So I just write songs sometimes about this mental vomit.
Right. I think it works pretty well. I think it's interesting too to just see the change, or not just the progression, I guess, more so in your lyrics from Ghost Ship to now. And even while you were still in Ghost Ship, some of the solo stuff you were putting out during that time. Do you find that there's been do you think that was a natural thing? Did you feel like in Ghost Ship you were intentionally trying to write different kinds of lyrics, or maybe it hasn't changed as much as I think? What do you think about all that?
Well, I was definitely trying to write in a very fictional kind of almost fantasy kind of way, like Ghost Ship had a theme. We agreed to do a theme, when we started the band. It's all themed around Ghost Ship Octavius. So the first album, even though it's about other things, it's all put into the world of this Ghost Ship kind of, this Ghost Ship world. With the second record too, it's all kind of put into this Ghost Ship world. So even though I was writing about things, like a lot of really dark things I was going through at the time on Delirium, and a lot of internal struggles and emotional struggles and things like that, things about loss and, things about depression, and it's very dark, melancholy kind of album. They were all kind of fit into this paradigm of Ghost Ship Octavius, so I use a lot of metaphors with ships and things like that, just to make it kind of conform to that. So, and it's also written in this kind of esoteric H.P. Lovecraft-esque kind of lyrical style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
Which I've
did
I've
seem
always
that.
loved H.P. Lovecraft, so like that comes out naturally. But I'm starting to dial that back a little bit. I mean, now that I'm outside of Ghost Ship Octavius, it's like whatever I want to do. You know, if I want to write a song about, you know, monkeys and pizza, you know.
Well, you have written a great song about figs in the past as well, so
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I remember that one.
yeah.
It mixed reception on that one. Mixed reception. Not everybody likes figs. I get it.
Yeah, they're just like, no, I could get behind all the others now, but not the figs, you know.
I'm a vegetable man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought Delirium did have a little more of like you could kind of see the direction you were going on that one, whereas the first album certainly has less of that, or at least less
Yeah.
obviously, I would say. Uh,
Yeah.
Looking back, do you like one of the albums more than the other? Would you say?
Uh, I like both of them. You know, I can't listen to them right now for a few reasons.
Yeah.
First of all, you know, I just got out of the band. Like I technically left in February, even though I told them I was leaving in like December.
Yeah.
But I just got out of the band, and um, you know, there's a lot of stuff associated with leaving a band that you've been in for 7 years. You know, it's a big creative project that you've been involved with for 7 years. So that's one reason. Second, when we released the album, I probably listened to it like 3 million times. So after that, like I basically memorized it so much that, you know, like my expectations get in the way of me listening to it. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take a break, you know, maybe for like a year or something, and then I'll go back and I'll listen to it, and I'll probably just listen to the whole thing from like a fresh perspective and really enjoy it, you know?
I think yeah, exactly, because I think you do need distance from things like that. I mean, even I find myself with
Yeah.
some of my music, it's the same way, or like just old recordings I did and listened back to that I hated at the time, and I'm like, it's not as bad actually. You know,
Yeah.
those that kind of feel. But
Oh yeah, absolutely.
but I do think Delirium was interesting because it's more hooky as well. Like the first, I mean, they're both hooky albums, but I think Delirium really took it to another level.
Oh, thank you. Mean in terms of hooks and songs, or?
Yeah, like it was a lot of the vocal lines, the choruses just really stuck in the ear. I think even more than the first one, which was
Oh,
pretty
thanks.
cool.
Well, we put a lot more work into the choruses and on that record, you know?
Yeah.
Like we kind of thought about it a little bit. I don't say we wanted to think what would make it catchy, but we wanted to think about what would make the choruses powerful, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And and I've been also, you know, trying, like, personally from a vocal perspective, I've been trying to refine what it is about people's um what it is about vocal melodies that we hear that makes people find them catchy, you know? And so I've been thinking about that a lot, and that's something that also was developing on that record more than the first record. I mean, the first record, when I joined the band, I was 17, you know?
Yeah.
So I had to keep working on it, and practice, 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 which involves writing a lot of songs and learning a lot of songs. So, you know, hopefully the more songs I write and learn, the more I'll figure out how to make a perfectly catchy vocal melody,
It's
you
tricky
know?
because there are so many factors to take into account. I mean, some choruses seem to their catchiness exists so much based on the melodic content, and then sometimes it's like there's one note and it's the rhythm. There's so many little factors to find with that.
And lyrics too.
Right. I mean, because that's why so many of the pop songs have everyday phrases involved, because people are going to remember an everyday phrase, right?
Uh-huh.
Hence the book of cliches that you used for
Yeah.
the old ejaculatorium days, which is funny because I
Yeah.
didn't realize until you did that on video that it was an actual book of cliches. I thought you were just kind of joking.
No, it was a real literal book of cliches, and I don't know where the damn thing went. I've looked for it so many times I can't find it in this apartment anymore. Um this is the same apartment that I was living in while I was doing the musical Ejaculatorium too. I moved to Seattle for a few years in between and then came back, and I'm going to move soon again, but in that process, I don't know if I took the book of cliches or if someone else has it and they're using it.
Siphoning
I
your
don't know.
success off the book you left behind.
Yeah, damn it. I might have to order a new one, but you know, I feel guilty doing that because there's something cool about having like an old decaying book of cliches.
It's true.
some of them aren't even cliches before. It's like, it's like you know, the apple in the hen's mouth or something. It's like, what the hell? Who says that? You know what I mean?
Do you think it's like they were just so old that they stopped being used, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, like maybe they were cliche at the time.
Right.
You know?
They're just like, no one. We're never going to say that again, and now no one has heard them.
Right. Yeah. It's like, you got a fly in your pocket. It's like, what? What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Have you consulted, or rather, did you consult the Book of Cliches for any songs in Ghost Ship at any point?
Yes, I did.
Mm.
I did. Yeah, because it's fun. Because it's really fun to like find a cliche, find some old cliche, and then try to adapt it a little bit. You know?
Right.
Um. So there's an old cliche. Have you ever heard the cliche "pour oil on troubled waters"?
Yeah, I've heard troubled waters, but the poor oil part doesn't come to mind.
Has something to do with pouring oil because the oil's, I guess uh, it does something to like the surface tension or the heaviness of the water. Something supposed to calm it down. I don't know, but it's historically, I guess, they poured oil on water for some reason. Um, and so there's this expression of pouring oil on troubled waters. Um, so I took that one and I changed it, or it. Wait, was that it? No. There's another one. Casting something on the wall. Casting something on the
Oh,
wall. I don't know. I turned it into
bloodcaster.
casting. Yeah, bloodcaster. So instead of he cast his oil in the water, or maybe it was cast his prayer on the water. I don't know, something like that. Some cliche no one uses, but it was cliche at some point. He cast his blood upon the water. That was the first line of Bloodcaster, and I used that specifically because I just wanted like some fresh perspective to start the lyrics, and oftentimes with metal songs, the music comes first, lyrics come second. You know,
Pretty
but it's
much.
fun. You find an old cliche and then make it fit.
I like that method. I think it also solves the problem for so many people where, especially, I know for myself, it's like, what's the first thing I say? I don't know. Even if you're just using them
Yeah,
as temp lyrics, it's actually probably a pretty good method to get going.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just find like a cliche. The first cliche that comes to mind.
Yeah. But we got
You
to
know,
talk, of course, we got to talk a little bit about some singing stuff since I know so many of the people tuning in are waiting to hear about that. Um, and looking at Delirium, the first thing that comes to mind to me is like there's some head voice suddenly. There's some real high notes on that album. And I think it's interesting that since then you have there's the side of your voice you dabble in with that still. There's some head voice notes on some of the newer songs, but I think it's kind of noticeable you've kind of done more of a mid-range kind of a feel on some of these recent tunes. And how would you describe the intent behind your vocal evolution from Delirium to now, would you say?
that's an interesting question. The intent. Well, I think like when we first became friends, we were probably what, 16,
Yeah, 15, I think. Yeah, it was. We were both
15?
15.
Okay.
You were 16 when I actually met you, but I remember we were talking like online a little bit before that in correspondence to get going and doing music and stuff. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so we were both 15 at first, and then it was by the end of 2011, I think, when we were actually like had met in person and stuff in
Yeah.
preparation for doing a band kind of thing.
Yeah. And we had
Craigslist.
chained together and yes. You were one of the few people who's not a rapist on Craigslist.
Yeah, and that's
I'm
I'm proud
so
of that one.
glad. I'm so glad I wasn't afraid of Craigslist when I was 15. Um, because if I were a 15-year-old now, I'd probably be like, Craigslist, what the hell uses Craigslist?
Yeah,
You know? But but yeah, so like at that time, I don't think I had sang a little bit, but I hadn't like hyper obsessed yet, and I started to hyper obsess like soon after that. I started to just really obsess over sounding like the singers I wanted to sound like, which pretty much at the time was Dio. I was like, how do I sound like Dio?
yeah.
And then I went to this vocal coach. I remember I was like 15 or 16, and she was a little bit crazy. And she basically just like had me in the room. She's like, "Oh well, you're definitely a bass," and because I couldn't sing past a certain note, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, sing up the scale," and I was like, and then she's like, "Okay, all right," and then she like kind of sent me off, and it was like a trial lesson sort of thing,
Right.
and she didn't actually sing very much. she didn't sing in a way I want to sing. I was very much like, I'm not going to learn what I want to learn from this woman. My dad might have even said that too. He might have put that in my mind a little bit, like, if she's not going to teach you what you want to learn, then then don't do it. And I just wanted to learn how to sing rock vocals, so
Right.
I was just hyper obsessed with that. And then you know how it works. Like as soon as you start singing rock vocals, you're like, how do I sing higher? And then I wanted to just push my range higher and higher, and then I wanted to sing higher notes. And then around Delirium, I was like, okay, I can only belt so high without completely just wearing myself out, exhausting myself. So I'm going to try to use some head voice on this. And then I found out how to kind of make head voice usable. But I've always walked this line since then of not sounding too unnatural with it, because I feel like trying to bring head voice down from this screechy scream thing into like a usable mid-range that's belty is sometimes it can sound a little bit insincere.
Right.
So I was experimenting with it at that time, especially for the high notes, and then I found I can use it live pretty dependably, and then developed some techniques for really developing head voice and refining it. And from having a lower voice, actually you always had a leg up on me on high notes. I remember that. I was always like, damn, Garrick's got that high scream thing down. And you always had that that extra little edge up there, but you also have like a fairly low voice type. And
yeah, a little bit on the lower end. Certainly not as low as you, but
well, for a lot of us baritones, us baritones, wink wink,
right.
that's the struggle. The high notes are the struggle.
Yeah, and
so you want to get those high notes.
Yeah, and I remember you were always talking about trying to keep that get that really full belting sound out of it too. Whereas like I always had this like, I was kind of going into that head voice thing a lot earlier because I was always thinning out and getting kind of a piercing tone was like what I was initially looking for, and that's why I was kind of like, how is he doing this like huge roar of a tone? But I do recall that at first when we were like hanging out and stuff, you were not able to carry it nearly as high as you were a few years later and so forth. And then it seemed like at that point it just seemed like the sky's the limit. You're just adding like all kinds of crazy vocal techniques after another after that point.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's crazy stuff.
Well, I appreciate hearing that from you too, because you've been a good friend for a really long time.
You too, man.
And
you too.
And I remember like, I don't want to say I was envious of your high range because that sounds kind of but I remember, I mean, like I respected it, you know what I mean? I was just like, damn, he's got those high notes down, and you were right, I couldn't do it for a long time, but then once you can do it, because I feel like now I can pretty much do it, I realized that I shouldn't just do it all the time because it's new.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I totally did that when I was younger, like 17, 18, whatever. Anytime I found something new, I would just do that over and over and over again and like record covers with weird voices and stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
I remember doing some covers on forums. Like I did Johnny Cash's Hurt, but an octave lower.
Oh yeah. that was classic. That was
just because
clip.
It was like, how low can I? I'm like, let me see how power fry I can get here. It's completely unnecessary. Nobody wants to listen to that. It's like listening to a stomach rumble.
It is. It was quite terrifying in its own way, though. Yeah, it's like so much not what you expect when you're hearing a cover of "Hurt" by someone too. You hear the acoustic guitar, like, okay, here it comes, and it's just suddenly, it's just like monstrously low. It's like
funny.
jump out of your seat, kind of a thing.
Yeah. But yeah, so I kind of forgot your question a little bit. It was about like how it shifted from Delirium or something.
Yeah, well, specifically, I was kind of thinking about because first Ghost Ship and Delirium, there's a certain through line of the approach. There's a lot of power belting. Of course, you got. I mean, on Delirium, I think you're also doing almost a little bit more, dare I say, crooning kind of singing in it. There's a little bit more of that mid to lower range singing on that one too. But then your most recent stuff, it seems like partly, of course, because the music is so different. It seems like you're really doing some more kind of soulful, expressive, different kinds of singing. And I was kind of wondering if there was a specific impetus for that, or if that just kind of happened naturally because of the way the songs were written.
Oh, well, now what it's about, because at the time, it was a lot of experimentation and like developing skills and stuff. And now I have this interesting balance where I feel like because I'm primarily a music teacher for income when I'm not touring and stuff, I can develop skills through learning the songs that my students are learning. And
Right.
then I can exercise those skills um and put them into practice, but I don't always have to. So like with this stuff that I've been writing, my voice sounds best in that mid range because of where my timbre is. And then I don't need to be screeching like a wannabe tenor all the time. You know what I mean? So every now and then I do it though. So I'm still experimenting with stuff. I mean, I use some head voice on Can't Be Wrong. I use some head voice on Love You to Death, and there might be another one. I don't know. Sometimes I use it for backing vocals. But I finally kind of like, dude, you know this. I was searching for years for like the technique to connect the two. Like, how do you connect this heavy belt with the head voice thing?
Right.
And I was just obsessing over it, and I finally figured it out. And then I'm like, okay, well, I can do it now, but it's not super usable because it doesn't actually sound the best in every range, and it might just be because of my voice. But I think maybe not everybody is made to sing up there all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like sometimes it sounds better to sing in your range.
Oh, for sure.
So I've calmed down a little bit, basically. The angst is going away.
Yeah. I wondered if it was some of that or if it was just because there is that. I think what you're saying kind of is when you get that head voice technique going, especially if you have a lower voice naturally, you essentially now have two different voices and you become almost two different people. And the question is, how do you tastefully implement that without it being too jarring? And I think you've done a good job of that. But at the same time, I can also understand why you might be like, let's not always do that because there's going to be contexts where it's going to be difficult to fit in. You think that's
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
part of
thank
what
you.
that was? Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, partially. That's an interesting way of putting it. Like you have two different voices. It's true because the fundamental frequency sounds so different in the modal register than in that head voice register. Like just from a purely like frequency spectrum analysis kind of standpoint, the harmonics are so different. And because of that, you have to be really careful with how you use it. Because some people, even though they have low voices, they just sing high all the time. And that's what like, okay, Axl Rose.
Yeah.
You just think of him in this, high falsetto kind of context all the time, but he's got a pretty low voice. And this is like kind of the caricature. It doesn't actually sound like him, right? It doesn't have his,
No.
I'm not saying that in a bad way, but um, same thing with Brian Johnson, right? It doesn't
Right.
actually sound like him. So you have to be careful with how you use it, and I still try to develop it, but I'm trying to get like a level of sincerity in the music first and foremost.
For sure. I think that comes through pretty clearly on the music you've done. And do you feel like you're still searching a kind of because I know going back a few years you were often like you say taking some tips from different singers and kind of like how do I do that? I'm going to work on that specific kind of sound. Do you still find that you'll be listening to a new band or something that you hadn't listened to before and then you'll be like, "Hey, this singer's really good. Maybe I'll try and implement a little bit of that." Do you kind of still take pointers that way or do you kind of disassociate yourself from your influences as much as possible when you're singing now, would you say?
No, I still hold all my influences in high regard and try to learn as much from people as I can. Um, when I meet people on tour and just through the music industry stuff, like I'm extremely lucky to have met the people that I've met. Some people I never thought that I would meet. I got to meet Magali Luyten.
Oh, I actually didn't hear about that. That's awesome.
I got to meet her, and it was like a dream come true. I never thought I would meet Magali Luyten. I've been vocal crushing over her since I was like 16. So I
Yeah.
listened to her high notes. I'm like, oh my god, how does she do that with so much power?
Yeah.
You know, um, and I got to talk to her about it. And ask her about her technique and stuff. And I like everybody I meet. I got to meet Todd Latore, who's an extremely nice guy.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, he
You
does
know,
seem that way. It's true.
yeah, he's very, very genuine and sincere. Um, I got to meet a lot of really good vocalists. And I'd ask people about their techniques and how they approach stuff, and for everybody it's different. Some people are technicians, you know. Todd Latore, he's a technician. He's a straight up technician, and he's very intelligent about the way he approaches his vocals, you know. And he has a low voice. He's a bass baritone.
It's true. You wouldn't think you hearing him
And
sing a lot of the time, but you hear him talk and listen to some of his lower notes, and it's like, what? You know?
yeah, yeah, he's very good at what he does. So, I mean, I still try to learn as much as possible from other people all the time, because if I assume that I know nothing, then I have everything to learn from people, you know, and everyone's approach is totally different. And the only time when that changes is when I'm teaching, of course, because there are certain things I know, although vocals are very subjective. I challenge a lot of the notions of contemporary vocal teachers who were taught in a more traditional fashion, assuming that their traditional fashion is valid, even though it's a subjective learning experience. So it's very interesting. So I've actually been like kind of ostracized by vocal teachers before.
Really?
And yeah, and it's not a healthy thing, because I don't ever ostracize people. It doesn't matter if they're not even the best singer, you know. You have to treat everybody with respect, because they very well might understand something you don't, and you're dealing with a part of your body where you can't see what's happening.
Right. That is the
You
thing.
can if you get hooked up to like a machine or like one of those little cameras that goes down your throat or whatever, but you're not going to learn anything from that, because it has to do with feeling, you know. So
Exactly.
you can read as many textbooks as you want. It's not going to translate to being a good singer in any way, you know. It has to do with feeling. So it's interesting, and I think we're reaching a point now where people don't like shun rock vocals as much, you know, classical teachers or whatever, because they realize, oh, okay, maybe it doesn't destroy your voice.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I feel like in general there's been, and I feel like to some extent, me being a part of the Range place, which is of course now the Range Planet, but being part of that, I feel like we've almost kind of put a little bit of that energy out there. It seems like there's just been a move in the last 5 years more towards, you know, let's talk about vocal range. Let's talk about rock vocals. What are people really doing with their voice? I mean, suddenly now we have like all these vocal coach reacts videos going viral and everything. And it's interesting to me to see how that has changed. Now it's like classical teacher reacts to, you know, rock vocals, reacts to Dio or something. And it's kind of amazing to me to see that this is really such a new phenomenon of people being like, you know what, maybe rock singers do kind of know what they're doing, you know, the good ones. And
Yeah.
I think that you've I think kind of contributed to that as well, because you've always been really open about talking about all that and doing, you know, all sorts of crazy vocal demos and vocal recordings and stuff.
Yeah, on forums like ceaselessly, and
Yeah.
writing fake Wikipedia articles to piss people off.
Did you do an entry for Orendo Canto? I think
I did.
yeah.
I
Tell our
did.
listeners about that, because they don't know about Orendo Canto. They got to hear the legend of Orendo Canto.
Okay, so I didn't have any kind of traditional education in vocals. I just asked people questions and practiced obsessively and read everything I could, and you know, watched a bunch of really bad YouTube videos, and just self-taught myself everything, you know, through like learning stuff like Mongolian throat singing, and you know, just different ways of contouring your voice, and then I felt like I found this mode of support and compression that no one was talking about, and nobody knew what it was. Like, it was so mind-blowing in my 17-year-old brain. And maybe I was probably 17, 18 at the time. And I gave it its own name, because we had bel canto and we had all these things. And then there was this, you know, TVS camp that felt like they had everything figured out that you could possibly figure out. And then there was this other camp. So there's all these like vocal camps of knowledge. And, you know, I was on all these internet forums and stuff. So I made my own technique. It's called Orendo Canto. And people were like, that doesn't exist. And I'm like, yes, it does. Here's a Wikipedia article. Not telling them I made the Wikipedia article. I made everything up just to troll people, basically. And Orendo Canto it translates to horrible singing.
Right.
It's it's a play on the words bel canto, which is beautiful singing. So, you know, it's not like I was taking this really seriously, like, you know, this is the best thing in the world. I was just simply trying to troll people because they felt like they had everything figured out. But a lot of the vocal coaches that have everything figured out don't sound very good.
Yeah. That's often the byproduct of that, it seems.
And there's some vocal coaches that have a lot figured out, and they have a lot of really good ideas, and they get recognized for that, I feel, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need like real vocal gurus in rock singing, and there's a few of them. There's some people who are renowned for their insight into vocals, but it's such a weird thing because it's like so subjective. I feel like you almost have to be a sort of yogi, like someone who goes to teach you about your mind and you meditate or something. Um, and it's filled with just as much BS as that is, like you go to some guy, he rips you off, and he's like, "All right, here is the key to enlightenment," and then you know you just basically join a cult or something, But that seems to happen with vocals too, because you can't see what you're doing, you can only feel it, you have no idea what's going on, and the only way to learn it is to pay attention to what's happening inside your body. So then you get someone who's like, "I'm going to tell you the key to this thing," that actually the only person that can figure it out is you, right? Fundamentally, you're the only person that can actually figure it out. So you have to approach it really carefully, and you have to be searching for it yourself. So what I try to gear my students to do is I look at what worked for me in motivating myself to look at what's going on, because you have to pay really close attention to what's going on. And then you have to learn these sensations in your body that vocal coaches talk about. And that's why you do exercises. You're like, do this exercise, do this exercise. The purpose should be to feel what's happening inside your body. And then you learn and discover your own voice, and you figure it out for yourself. And so far that approach seems to work. I don't play like a pompous vocal teacher when I'm teaching people, and I'm like, "Oh, this is the only way to do it." I'm like, as long as it doesn't hurt, it's fine fundamentally, because the only thing that's going to destroy your voice is inflammation. You know, and inflammation is going to come from straining your muscles, or like lesions or things like that. So you just have to be really aware. Is this actually hurting me? Then I'm doing it wrong. I'm straining myself. And as long as it doesn't hurt, you can do whatever the hell you want. There's Mongolian throat singers. You think classical Western music education approves of Mongolian throat singing? This guy's just sitting there doing that all day, like in in this big hall. They probably would think it's demonic. They'd probably think they're like possessed by demons or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. El Diablo!
But they do it their entire lives. So it's not destroying their voice. It's not destroying anything. People just need to pay really close attention to what's going on and ask themselves if it's hurting. So anyways, I went through this whole vocal thing. You asked me about Orendo Canto. It was just a way to troll people on forums,
Yeah. It's true, but there was this feeling, certainly to me at the time, that there was this sort of elusive technique, that only a select few could accomplish, so to speak, because you pointed out like people who were doing it, and you could hear kind of a similar through line with basically this belted tone that couldn't crack, or it wouldn't crack into falsetto type of thing. And some of those singers I remember you talking about, like Bruce Dickinson and Dio, it does sound like that's what they're doing one way or another. But since then, have you found that maybe it was different than you thought it was? Do you think that maybe what you were doing was different, or do you think it's just there's not a term for it yet?
I think, okay, my current understanding of myself and what that technique is in particular, this is actually a lot simpler than I thought it was. I couldn't really describe it at the time, but air support is air support, and using your diaphragm is your diaphragm. And it seems like you can do that with falsetto, you can do it with head voice, you can do it with a belt. But the thing that differentiates whether or not you can carry a really heavy belt into a high register is how you use your compression. And everyone sings with compression. Even opera singers sing with compression when they talk about open throat. You have to have some compression, because it's simply the only way to stop air from coming out of your voice, from coming out of your throat. So you're not just losing all of pushing your air out like you would if you were winded or hit in the stomach or something.
Yeah.
So my current understanding of what that is to be able to carry a belt really high is it has to do with the strength of a particular set of muscles, and there might be a few involved. I'm trying to figure that out right now, but I know for sure there's one set involved that allows you to keep your larynx completely neutral, never engage the muscles that pull your larynx higher, so you're not going to break into falsetto, and allow you to still close your throat in a way that doesn't hurt or cause any damage. So there's a set of muscles. I think once you find them, you can kind of support your voice with those, and it leads to a very healthy kind of chest voice singing where you're not straining with the muscles that you use when you talk. Because when we talk, like even now, you eventually become sore
It's
because of
true.
the way that you
Mhm.
phonate, you know? And those are not, in my opinion, the best muscles to belt with because they fatigue really easily and they lead to a lot of inflammation. So that's why you have to kind of get down this other set of muscles and then refine those for a belt. And then what I found most recently is that you can switch to a mixed voice from there. You can let off to a mixed voice. There's a kind of in between. Um, and it's different from a traditional mixed voice, what people call traditional belt, because in a traditional belt you're basically doing like a crying kind of placement. You're using the same muscles. I forget if they're the CT or TA or whatever they abbreviate them to, but the muscles
Yeah.
around the larynx that pull them up, and you kind of do that yelpy kind of thing up into a belt, which is fine. But it's different than that because you can actually keep your larynx completely. Like I can keep mine low on like E5. It just doesn't sound very good.
Yeah.
So it's not usable up there for me. If I were a tenor, it would be. I have students who are tenors. I have students who are sopranos. Dude, a soprano can use this thing up up into like well into the fifth octave,
hmm
and then she can transition seamlessly, which is very easy for her because of the length of her vocal folds and how well developed female head voice registers generally are. and
Yeah.
and then there is just seamless transition infinitely into the keyboard. So it's like carry your belt as high as you want until it's whistle voice basically. Which is pretty
Wow.
gratifying when when you see someone do that. It's like, yes, now tell them I taught you. No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
The trick, yeah, it is. It's sort of like the reverse of your low register, where we've talked about, where it's just sort of like descends until it's no longer audible.
Yeah, yeah. And I
More or
don't
less.
know, it's probably possible to do that with a baritone voice too, but I haven't figured that out yet, like a transition all the way up, though I suspect it has something to do with developing the head voice muscles. This is kind of a vocal geek podcast, right?
Yeah, we're getting pretty yeah. Well, it's interesting because we started out very much vocal geek podcast of sorts, and then it seemed like as kind of it went on, more and more I just kind of started interviewing people about like their careers and their songwriting and stuff. So it's kind of nice to have another chance to just really geek out vocally again. Hopefully, we can kind of bring
Yeah.
that back to the forefront.
Okay. Well, as long as we're on vocal geek mode, I'll talk about the head voice muscles because this is something that held me back for a really long time. Um, because we talked about how I always had respect for your high range, and I could never do it myself. And I think for different people, it's just different. I think there's a lot of factors, and I think one of those factors is how often you speak and the way you speak, and how long your vocal folds are, and just the musculature in your voice. Because um, there's a certain set of muscles you have to use in order to get head voice to happen, which is like like a high register that's connected. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just falsetto, but it has like some kind of connection to it. Um, and I think that people with lower voice types, some of us have to just develop those muscles. And if you can't develop those muscles, then it's very hard to get it to happen. The interesting thing is females, generally speaking, use a different set of muscles to phonate from what I understand. I was reading this study about it where they basically analyzed a bunch of the uh, the speaking registers of a group of volunteers, and generally speaking, males talk in what they call a modal register, which is a different set of muscles, and females talk in something that's almost more like a mixed voice,
Hmm.
which allows you to phonate at a lower air pressure. And if you notice, like, I don't know if I can get my mixed voice. If you're like talking in a mixed voice, you can phonate at like a really low air pressure,
Yeah.
so you don't have to use a lot of air to do it. And when you do that, you also train those muscles to happen all the time. So a lot of male students that I have they can't even talk in a light way. Their voice just breaks because
Hmm.
they have no control over those muscles. But most females can. It's very rare that I get a female vocal student who can't do that. So it's very interesting the differences between, people's placement and stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking you'd have that. That's a cool story. I thought you would have some of those because you've worked with so many different kinds of singers. It sounds like that would really kind of inform that knowledge. Like for instance, did you end up? I can't remember if you ever told me this. Did you ever get anyone to learn your low register stuff too?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Um, Usually female students
Really?
because they'll have to sing. Yeah, because they'll have to sing something that's really low, and they're like, "Oh, I can't hit this note." You know, be like, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no, no. What you have to do, you have to slow down your voice. It's like when you approach the low register, you just work on like uh, uh, getting like individual vibrations, and then you'd be surprised. For some people, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah. To get
You
just that
know?
vocal fry sound, you mean?
Yeah. So I always have to explain it. You know, a lot of my students go to high school, so I'm like, okay, imagine like you're talking like someone
Yeah.
and then you're able to do that. You know what I mean? But
Right.
for a lot of people, it's actually hard to just slow down their voice like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've taught some people successfully, which I'm always proud of. You know, it's I'm happy when I can help somebody figure something out with their voice because nobody could help me figure it out. Damn it.
Yeah. Did you find like well for the women that were able to do it, like how low were they able to go? Were they like an octave above your voice, or what? How did that end up going?
I got an alto to I want to say like F2.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it does sound different. You know, you have to spend a lot of time to make it into like a Nina Hagen type of thing.
Right. Well, I was yeah. I mean, she is an example of someone who I think is doing something kind of similar to to what you do, but obviously it sounds very different in a female voice.
Yeah, to our listeners, type in Nina Hagen, personal Jesus.
Yeah.
You'll hear what I'm talking about.
It is. Yeah.
It's a specific type of sound that you have to work on. Like it's both slowing down your vocal folds and compressing or maybe holding your throat open in a certain way. So um, it's hard to train that, and mine goes away if I don't practice it.
How much do you how much range do you lose on that end if you don't practice it? Is it like half an octave, or how does that go?
I would say about half an octave, yeah, because I can still hit it, but it won't be as controlled.
Right. I would think your
Same thing
voice
with
is
high
just
notes.
yeah, I would think your voice is just like so well adjusted to that register that it's a lot more automatic than it's going to be for most people, presumably. But
Yeah, it depends. It is definitely more automatic than it is for other people, but I know, when I was younger and I was just pushing it, like with that Johnny Cash cover and everything, and
mm,
I was trying to get as low as I could. I don't remember what it was, like B0 or something.
yeah, I definitely remember
But
the famous B zeros.
I can hit a B0.
The
Most
audience
people are
is
like, "What?
confused.
Can you get this crazy person away from me?"
Yeah.
Is this some kind of sports thing?
Right. Battleship? What? Yeah.
Vocal sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's fun. I will always be a vocal nerd because I'm more of a technician too.
Right.
Like nothing came easy to me.
That's probably a big part of what does it too. It's like some people, we obviously know this, we've talked about them a lot, is the people that are just like the naturals who you ask them what they do.
Tenors.
Yeah. And they're just like, I don't know. I just sing from the soul, man. Did I ever tell you about that interview with Midnight from Crimson Glory where they're asking
Did he
him,
say that?
it was something where they asked him like, so do you use mask? Do you sing from the mask when you sing or something? And he's like, no, I just sing from the soul.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, I'm sure you do, man. But most of us, it's not that easy.
Wow. Just so our listeners know, there is an eternal war between baritones, basses, and tenors. Okay, that's all. That's all I have to say on that subject.
Oh yeah, it's true. The war wages on, and it is ongoing, isn't it? But
Yes,
let's talk.
tenors unfortunately will always be winning. Sorry, go ahead.
Let's talk a bit about your upcoming music. What platforms are you planning on publishing this stuff on, and what formatting do you think you're going to use moving forward?
Well, I'm trying to figure that out. I don't know what people best respond to. I've had a lot of people ask me to put them up for sale on my website because they want to support in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just been trying to release them on everything. So they're on iTunes, they're on Spotify, they're on YouTube. they're on Apple Music or whatever. That way, everyone can listen to them. And my idea is give away as many free things as possible, and then maybe when I do need some, some support from fans, they'll help out.
Yeah, I think that's a good way. Is it all under your own name then? All the everywhere people want to go to follow you, it's all under your own name.
Yeah, just type in Adon Fanion. It's ADONFANION,
That sounds good.
and then yeah, it's on everything, and people can subscribe or not subscribe or write mean comments. I like those.
Do you think you'll be doing any full length album stuff again, or what's the thought in that regard?
I would like to. The thing about a full length album, I can do one right now, but to release it physically requires some money.
Right.
So, and now is not the time for me to ask anybody to pre-order an album, which is usually how I would do it. Just because there's like COVID and presidential elections and too many things that people find preoccupying in their mind.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, a lot of people just lost their jobs and stuff too. So I'm not gonna be like, "Hey guys, buy my music, man." But I'll just keep releasing it for free now. I do really want to do a full length, and I would probably rework a bunch of the songs that I have already released and then put a few more on there. And then I'd really like to press vinyl. I don't care about CDs as much, but vinyl LP, um, probably like a gatefold, and I want a big piece of art for all the artwork that each song has. Like maybe like a big booklet in it or something, or a fold out or something. Um, and that's my idea because vinyl LPs to me are so cool. And since I got a record player, a turntable, and put a really good needle on there, I realized that this whole time I thought they were just vinyl elitists, but it is actually better than CD.
Oh yeah.
It's actually better. It sounds a lot better, and I think part of the reason for that might be digital to audio conversion.
Yeah, I
I
could
mean digital
imagine
to
that.
analog audio conversion. Yeah, because you always have some kind of digital artifact from that, um, but it does have a sort of definition to it, and it's not just like the warmth or whatever. I used to poo poo it, but man, listening to it, it's like I can hear things on the Ghost Ship records on vinyl that I can't hear on CD.
Damn.
And I have really nice headphones. I've got nice monitors, but I can hear things on that vinyl that are just clearer for some reason.
And people want to buy vinyl too. And that's encouraging is that people seem to be willing to shell out a little extra sometimes if they think they're going to be able to pre-order a vinyl. So I think that's a promising avenue
I
in the future, assuming, everyone can afford to buy
Yeah,
music again at some point. you know.
I heard that 2019 vinyl sales surpassed CD sales. I don't know if it's true or not.
I'd believe it. Now, I'm used to CDs. I haven't listened to a record on an actual tabletop since I was probably 5 years old, but I I've been very intrigued by the concept because I also love getting to really see the art in greater detail and the packaging aspects of it that you just don't get with a jewel case or a digipack. So, you know,
Yeah,
that's something I'm hoping to look more into moving forward. But
yeah, that's true. CDs are going to be disposable.
it's tough because I mean, like that's the sound I'm used to because I always felt like it had a nice middle ground between not being so compressed as MP3 and not having the crackle of vinyl. But granted, I haven't sat down with a table, a turntable, and listened to that vinyl in so long that I don't have a frame of reference really.
Yeah. Well, there's also more factors too, because you have to consider with a turntable, you need a new stylus on there.
Hmm.
You can't use like an old stylus. It's all rusty and stuff. It's just going to sound like, you know,
Right.
and you have to clean it. You don't want dust on there or anything. But from how I understand it, it's basically like with digital to analog conversion, you have steps, right? Because digitally you can only represent values, so you're translating values to an analog signal, um, digital values to an analog signal. But then analog, it's just vibration. It's just vibration on wax. Like the wax is carved out in a certain way, and you get this. You're getting this like really clean analog signal, and that signal's just going through wire. Um, so I think that's why it sounds a little more real. You know, I mean, it's weird to
Right.
put it that way, but I'm a huge fan of it. So if anyone out there hasn't bought a turntable, or you've never listened to vinyl, if you're like around the age of Garrick and I,
Mhm.
and perhaps you've just completely missed the vinyl experience, I'm telling you, it's not all quackery. There is
Right.
something about vinyl, and it is worth it. Plus, the ritual of like taking it out, cleaning it, putting it there, sitting down, listening to it, that is valuable too. As
I,
opposed to like
yeah.
skip next song, skip next song.
Well, because even just with my CD upbringing, I was always really attached to like sitting down, reading the lyrics, reading the thank yous, even all the liner notes and stuff while listening to the album. And I can imagine it's only amplified when you have a much bigger image to be doing that with. And plus, as you say,
Yeah,
you do have to actually take care of it. It's almost like another child, or something,
it
because you
is.
have
Yeah.
to keep it, to the point where it's going to work and you clean it and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah. With Ghost Ship Octavius, we pressed, I want to say 250 vinyls of both the first records initially, so they're extremely limited, and only some people have copies of those.
mhm.
So if you have one of those copies, one day it might be worth something. Somebody.
Awesome. Well, anyone out there with it, keep that in mind. Remember. And I would
Yeah.
like to touch on it because you talked a bit about this or alluded to it. Is also, of course, I don't know if everyone listening knows this, but Adon is also an amazing artist. Amazing with,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and you did both album covers for Ghost Ship, right? Am I correct in saying that?
No, actually, I didn't. No, the
Oh,
first record I did the pencil work and the ink work. Wait, is it pencil or ink? I think it's graphite. That one's graphite. And then Van did the logo overlay in the colors.
mm-hmm.
And the second record is not actually myself at all. That is Van,
Oh,
and that's Van's internal mad genius side.
oh,
Um,
props to Van there. Yeah.
yeah, Van is one of the most creative artists that I've ever met in my entire life. He might be the most creative artist I've ever met in my entire life. In fact, he might be,
Awesome. Yeah.
if not the most, one of the most. And that is actually paint on. I don't think it's canvas. I think it's paint on drumhead.
Oh wow, that's a cool
Yeah.
bit of trivia.
And then he turned that into the image that you see there, which almost looks. If you look at it, it's like a Rorschach almost,
It is, yeah.
and you can find whatever you want. Like you can see a ship in there.
Let me look at it now, actually, because
If you look, you'll see a ship in there.
I have it open. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, I
I
can
should
kind of.
have it, but you know what? We never made posters.
That is yeah, it is really cool. It kind of makes sense actually. You point out that that he did it rather than you, because it is different than your style. When I think of it, you're have more of an illustrating. I don't know what the word is, illustrative style.
Yeah,
Um, but what I
yeah,
wanted to,
illustration maybe.
but I kind of wanted to touch on with that is, do you take commissions still? Do you like, or is there a place where like people can send you stuff and be like, hey, could you do a cover for this, or could you draw that kind of a thing?
Well, it's been a long time. I used to do album art for people, but I stopped advertising that because I don't know, somewhere along the line, I'm like, ah, man, I'm not a very good artist, and I'm not enjoying this
Oh,
very much. So I just kind of stopped, but I would still do it if somebody wanted. But man, there's so many good artists out there now. Like, why choose me? You know what I mean?
don't be
Um,
down, man. That stuff, the stuff like if you guys can check out on his website, there's drawings there. It's insane the kind of stuff that he can do there.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. I just know like there's
No
people out there
problem.
who devote their whole lives to that, and while I'm recording, they're drawing.
Right,
In fact,
there's
someone on my stream too. Like I think they draw and listen to my stream, so
yeah.
it's like
Well, I understand. Yeah, prioritization is is difficult with all that. I mean, I myself only just recently started drawing again for the first time since I was probably 10 or something, and it's just been for the hell of it. And I just think there's something very kind of fun and refreshing about drawing something sometimes. But I can also see if it's something if you have like a deadline for, then it wouldn't be fun. So
yeah, that's what happens. Finding a way to work with art and deadlines at the same time. Like I can do it, but honestly, it helps to do it if I'm on live stream.
oh really? Yeah.
Yeah, or if I'm recording, because when you live stream doing something artistic, it's like somebody's holding you over the fire or something.
Right. Trial by fire. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to just go go go. You can't stop. You're never going to be like bored.
Mm-hmm.
Never going to be like, God, guys, I just don't know what to do. You're just going to keep going.
Flip the computer over.
Mhm. Right.
Or do you
You
think
can't
you'll
do
be
that.
doing art for your more of your solo stuff moving forward too, or is that you're gonna not always do that? What do you think?
I think I might. My sister has been doing a lot of it,
Awesome.
and she's a very talented artist.
Yeah,
And
she is
luckily,
too. Yeah.
yeah, I can just ask her like, "Hey, can you paint me this thing?" And she'll paint it, and it'll look awesome. So yeah, I mean, I want to help her. I want us to kind of like help each other, So I always try to promote her art on Instagram and everything too, and just every time I post like a picture, like my sister did this, follow her.
Hmm.
And it's good because she started getting commissions from bands recently,
Oh
which
wow.
yeah, which
Awesome.
is good. Um,
She deserves it.
so
Yeah, the stuff I've seen is really terrific.
yeah, she's got some serious talent. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've kind of been out of that. I've been more into the composition world and hyper focusing on, also, production too. I'm not the greatest at it, but I've been practicing, constantly, trying to make mixes sound better, trying to make songs hit harder.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, my head's been more in that world than art.
Yeah, I get it. I think it's cool that you cover all these different bases though, because it does make your website more exciting. Like when you go on there, there's all these little tabs of different weird stuff to check out, and
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
even a blog too. It looks like.
yeah. There's a blog, and my blog goes instantly to my podcast, but I haven't done that in a long time. Because I think I only have like 2 subscribers, so I'm like, I'm not gonna waste my time. But I should keep doing it. But uh, I don't think my stream is podcast material right now, and I haven't been explicitly devoting myself to podcasts. The last podcast episode I have is called "COVID Outbreak and Its Effect on Music," which is basically just me reviewing statistics, which is extremely boring. And then I post songs up there, like I posted my Infected Mushroom cover and Four Pillars, and I posted one called "Why I Left Ghost Ship Octavius," which was actually more popular than I expected. That's on the
Yeah.
the blog there. A lot of people were curious, why did you leave? But everybody was supportive in the decision, which was good. Of course, it's not easy, but it was good. I don't think they're going to continue, but um, you know, it's a period of my life that I'm very grateful for in a lot of ways. It brought me a lot of crazy, incredible experiences.
For sure, yeah. Did you have, or do you have on your website like a lessons tab? Can people like kind of get in contact with you if they want to take lessons?
Yeah, there's a contact form there, and you can just send me a message. People message me. It's got like some basic, why do you want to take lessons sort of thing, just to kind of figure it out, and then can schedule stuff. That's pretty much what I do right now when I'm not touring or whatever to keep monetary income. It's, I'll help you learn what you want to learn, and in exchange I get to eat.
Yeah. So yeah, so people, if you're interested, you want to learn some of that magic, go check out his website. Is it adonfanion.com or is it dot something else?
Yes. Yeah, it's
Adonfanion.com.
just my name.com.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can find it too. You just type in my name, it'll show up. But thanks for the plug.
Yeah. I'm plugging it, folks. All right. Well, last question then, because what I do, and this is the first time I've actually asked anyone about this. I probably should start doing this more often. But if you look at the Behind the Screams channel, there's 2 playlists. There's the interviews playlist, and then there's the listen to the singers I've interviewed in action playlist. And up till now, I've usually just posted whatever song I thought would represent them well, or maybe it's a song they've referenced in the interview. But now I figure I might as well actually ask you directly, what song would you like for me to link to represent your singing in that playlist?
To represent my singing?
Yeah.
Crap, man. Do I have to choose that?
You don't have to if you don't want to, but maybe I'll kind of maybe shift the question a little bit. What are some of your favorite personal vocal performances? Where you're like, that one really turned out really good, and you can maybe have a few, and I can choose between them or something.
Well, let's see. I would say "Love You to Death" is a good one to share because I put so much work into that music video.
Yeah.
The music video took me for freaking ever. Like I counted my hours. I spent over 100 hours making that.
Oh wow.
So I would say share that one, and it's got a little bit of head voice in there. Ooh.
Yeah, that's true.
That song's really hard to do live. I'll tell you that much. I didn't write it in a possible way.
Yeah, it's almost a little bit. I can hear a little Cornell in that one too, which I like. It's a good kind
A
of.
little bit, yeah. Chris Cornell will always be an influence. Rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P. for sure. Yeah, I can hear that in that one. And is you want to go with that one? You think, or are there any others that you have? Are there some favorites? Or
Yeah, let's do Love You to Death. Let's
all
do
right,
Love You to Death.
I'll put "Love You to Death" on there, and everyone check it out. And yeah, stay tuned in the following weeks for more interviews, and of course, subscribe and all that good stuff, peoples.
Yeah. Thank you, Garrick.
Yep. Thanks, Adon. Bye bye.